A snake.
He's drowning him in red Kool-Aid.
I won't die.
Oh yeah, welcome to part 19 of the Metal Gear Solid playthrough. This cutscene's presented in the first person, and you can move around with the D-pad and stuff. So I'm trying to imitate, you know, the head bopping of the PS1 models while they're talking.
Oh, I That's pretty funny.
The dedication.
The dedication.
Was his dying wish. When he was young, during the Cold War, the world needed men like us.
They'll always need men like us.
We were desired.
So speaking of like the way that PS1 games and like just older games in general had to work, I saw this video yesterday, and it was some dude like commentating over playing Resident Evil 2.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, I love these old, like I love the old like PS1 like Resident Evil games, because you'll just be like, oh god, I'm so hurt, and then he walks downstairs and it's like, and then he comes, and then he gets off the staircase and it's like, oh that's right, what was I doing? Oh that's right, oh god, and he just goes back to holding his injuries.
That's hilarious, and I can totally see that.
Oh man.
Oh, you can. Because you're the person that plays this game the most. Like, these games the most out here.
For the new
Huh?
type of a battle.
Of course you can. You're the guy who plays these games.
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't it reason enough
Yeah.
for warriors such as us? I don't want that kind of world. Ha! You lie. So why are you here then? Why do you continue to follow your orders while your superiors...
My orders are to ask you about your car's extended warranty.
We are from the Vehicle Service Center.
You enjoy the killing. That's why. What? Are you denying it? Haven't you already killed most of my comrades?
Just the one guy at the urinal multiple times.
Same guy. Nano machines kept on bringing him back.
The joy.
I think Bryan and Carlos might get this, but when you said that, I was thinking of
We were created
SAO
to
Abridged,
be that way.
where one of the bad guys was like, "You keep going after like one of my bodyguards. I think you have something out for him."
The terrible children. That's what the project was called. It started in the 1970s.
But yeah, I like how the beginning of that's presented in the first person, because that's basically Liquid trying to convince Snake that he's because they are descendants of Big Boss. There's a warrior built inside us, even literally, and so Snake's trying to deny that fate, even though, you know, even as the player himself, you know, kind of enjoyed the few times that we did get to kill people, especially the one guy at the urinal multiple times. So it's like
Certainly not a sociopath.
right. It's like trying to press the player into thinking, it's like, who exactly of a person am I? And this is the whole thing with like Metal Gear Solid 1 in particular. It's a fate versus free will kind of theme all around, but is where it's not like where it's like fate or versus free will in the spiritual terms, but in biological terms. So like, how can I put this? You know, the phrase like father like son. You guys are familiar with that phrase, right? Yeah.
Wait, nature or nurture?
Yeah, that too. Yeah. It's basically trying to say like who exactly are humans, both as a species but as individuals as well.
What?
Because Psycho Mantis in his dying breath, when like he said that every mind that he peered into, he saw the same exact thing over and over again, just humans wanting to reproduce over and over and over again. He saw everybody's dirty thoughts, if you will. And that he was very disgusted by that, and he couldn't help because, you know, he's a mind reader.
Live action.
Yeah, I told you guys we were watching a movie.
Right.
They're like, all right, let's just take some generic lab,
Generic lab footage and put it
generic
as,
lab footage, and we'll just put in there. It'll make sense.
Right. It'll make sense in the context, right?
Jacob's beep.
Created artificially through the alignment.
Oh yeah, and Liquid is also saying pretty much every soldier on the base also has a bunch of genes from Big Boss as well.
Human experiments.
Jesus, Big Boss knows how to get around.
It would have been interesting to see what happened in at the Les Infanteries project if the prequel trilogy was interested in telling that story, but it wasn't, and that seems to be the most interesting story, but it just didn't. And they wanted to go with like his building of the army of the military sans frontiere, but nope. Even that was miffed near the end point as well. But whatever.
Now just using footage of Gulf War.
Right.
Biological weapons, the poison gas detection units, and the
but what I was saying with the father-like-son metaphor, it's basically if you ever like notice a characteristic that you see similar to your dad, have you ever thought to yourself, did I learn that from him, or is it just built into my own nature? You know?
So the genome soldiers
because I've heard this from my grandma a lot, because I happen to live with her, that there are subtle movements that I do, or in my personality even, that is just like my mother. And so because of reasons, my mother has not been around for 7 years because death is a thing in this world. So I don't really have a lot of memories of my mother, all per se, but apparently I still have these traits and personalities that I have from my own mother, and like I'm too young to really remember, so I feel like that's an example of something just built into my own genes and my own DNA and stuff like that. It's how we differentiate ourselves as individuals, like that.
No wonder why I'm angry all the time. I got it from my dad.
Oh man.
Dude, no wonder I'm such like a fucking dick. That's why my parents just love to mess with people.
And yeah, that's basically the theme that it's trying to present here.
Why I'm crazy.
Oh my god.
Sorry guys, I have to go get the milk real quick. Leaves and never comes back.
There's actually a recording session. Colin just happened to be here, and he said, "I'm gonna go get the milk." Then he left and never came back.
In order to break the curse of my heritage.
And so here's the thing with Liquid here being the villain of all that, because he and Snake are direct, products of eugenics experiment from Big Boss. He feels like he got all the recessive genes from Big Boss, while Snake got all the dominant genes. And so he's trying to prove that wrong, if you will, by fulfilling Big Boss's dream of outer heaven. Essentially keeping the whole world into nuclear
Liquid is a petty bitch.
No, we have no past, no future, and even if we did,
more or less, yeah.
you and I are just copies of our father, Big Boss.
Because he feels like it is his destiny to feel like this.
We're almost out of time.
That's the fate versus free will thing that I'm talking about. He thinks it's written into his own code, being a descendant of Big Boss, that his destiny is already pre-filled out for him. And so he has to see it and follow it through. And Snake, not knowing any of this at all, he's like, "What the hell?
Can you hear me?"
Yes.
We have the same model face."
Colonel, answer me.
Secretary of Defense has taken over active control of this operation. He's on his way there by AWACS.
What for?
To bomb the place.
What?
Not only that, B-2 bombers just lifted off from Galena Air Force Base. They're carrying B-6113 surface-piercing tactical
nuclear bombs.
Yes.
Nuclear bombs that are what the
that
fuck?
are surface piercing. Right.
As if a nuke isn't already surface piercing. We just had to make sure.
No, it's a surface evaporizing.
If
Yes.
Fallout has taught me anything,
That reminds me of the non-lethal armor-piercing rounds that Red Hood will have in the upcoming Gotham Knights game.
Wait, non-lethal armor pierce. Oh.
Yes.
okay, hold the f on.
Huh.
How the fuck does that make sense?
Because it's Gotham Knights.
The truth is, Foxhound was already the subject
That's
If
how.
anything, if you have any bullets that are armor piercing, you're fucked no matter what.
The Gotham Knights is that
No,
the developers
those
will like
guys wanna-
say the developers will like say one thing, and then like I'll be like, okay, that sounds pretty nice, and that's like a neat gameplay mechanic, and then they'll say like 5 things that don't make sense, and I'm just like, why?
The game is still not out at the time of this recording. It probably will be out by the time of upload. So, Brian, how do you feel about the Gotham Knights project?
Mei-Ling, what happened to the Colonel?
I don't believe it.
If it's a day 1 Game Pass release, I'll get it, but I am not spending money on Gotham Knights.
Really? Okay.
Not at all. I mean, it.
Does it not look good to you?
It's. There are aspects of it that I'm really excited for. For example, it's nice to see that the Court of Owls are finally getting the attention they deserve of like being the main big bad of a Batman game.
Okay.
I like the setup of like Batman and like Batman supposedly being dead, and things like that. I like that we're like kind of going away from playing as Batman and actually experimenting with other characters like Batgirl, Red Hood, Robin.
Like conceptually, it's interesting, but
Yes.
you're worried more about the gameplay.
Yeah, because when it was first announced, Rocksteady, or at least the development team, said we're not going to implement that. Like they were like, it's going to have like a few RPG elements here and there, but for the most part, it's going to feel like an Arkham game. And then they released that like first gameplay trailer, and it like 50% of the mechanics in the game were RPG.
Yeah.
And everyone was just like, what the fuck?
Okay.
And then they started saying, and then like Nightwing has this so because you have to have these characters be able to get around Gotham, some of them are going to have different gadgets than others. So Robin and Batgirl, they get grappling hooks. Red Hood gets this thing called like Mythical Leap, where he's basically so. The context behind it is, without mentioning the League of Assassins, they're just like, this assassin group resurrected Tim Drake as Red Hood, and now he can double jump. But on the ground, you can actually drive his motorcycle, which I think is pretty kick-ass. But that's how like he traverses the rooftops. And with Nightwing, he gets a Fortnite glider. I'm not even kidding. Nightwing literally just gets a Fortnite glider.
Oh. Would you say there are more red flags than green flags for you?
Yes.
Gotcha.
However, one of the green flags that I do like about the game, so because the game it will be an online multiplayer game, obviously, where you can play as all 4 characters.
Yeah.
It has a untethered open world, which how they've described it, the example they used to describe it was basically this: someone can join your world, do completely different quest lines, do completely different missions as you, be able to do whatever the fuck they want while in your world. And you can do your own thing as well. You can do things together, you can do things separate. You guys are just inhabit the same world. And so now to compensate for progression that way is, let's say you join someone else's world and you help them do a quest. When you go back to your own world and you reach that same quest, you will actually have a menu will pop up, and you will actually have the option to either replay that quest or skip it, and the game will just know that you already did it.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty
Interesting.
cool.
So yeah, so like if you're playing as like Red Hood, for example, and someone else joins your world as Nightwing, they can go to the completely opposite side of the map, do their own thing, and then like after you're done fighting some enemies, you can look up and just see Nightwing fly across the rooftops.
Nice.
And so that's honestly one of the things that I'm most looking forward to about the game is just that untethered world sharing.
Yeah. But then everything else, Brian's like, what the fuck are these numbers?
Numbers.
Seriously,
What do they mean?
No, because like I mean, we're all. I think it just might be because I'm so used to just the Arkham format and the way that they do things. Because enemies now have health bars.
Sonic Heroes.
Like it's not it's not just hey, I'm gonna beat you onto the ground and then just do a ground takedown. It's like it's like the Marvel's Avengers of the Arkham games so far.
Oh, that's not a good thing.
At least so far, at least from all the videos that we've gotten of it, that's very much what it looks like it's going to be. That is why I am more excited for Suicide Squad to kill the Justice League than I am Gotham Knights.
Gotcha. Alrighty then.
When are these coming out?
Huh?
Just Suicide Squad is coming out next year.
Yeah.
It was supposed to come
Honestly,
out this year, but it got delayed.
Yeah, honestly, I felt like they could have tried this long ago, Rocksteady. Like make individual superhero games like Superman, the rest, then finally build up to a Justice League game. I'm surprised it's taking them this long to do it. I know they still haven't done the Superman game that I'd like, but they're going straight for like Suicide Squad and all that.
With PS4 Spider-Man, and now they're kind of moving into Wolverine.
Yeah, if that is what they're going for, and making an Avengers game worth a damn, sure.
Maybe. Hey, I mean, we've seen team-up games like that work in the past, like Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah. For the record, I failed that boss fight because you have to do it in the time parameters, and the first 30 seconds, if you're watching the cutscene for the first time, are wasted because of the cutscene. On the reboot, it starts from the full 3 minutes.
Nice.
All right.
Yay!
All right. Finally, Liquid's finally
Take
dead.
him off the edge.
We tried.
Evaporated
All right.
into the darkness.
Yeah, he keeps saying that he has all the recessive genes. He keeps doing all these like body slam stuff that we can't. Are you sure, Liquid?
Probably super strength that's recessive.
Then what does Snake have in
Arm.
balance to that?
Snake? Is that
Oh,
you?
arm strength or like
Snake.
Oh, Charm.
Oh, you're alive.
Charm. Able to get the girl.
Oh, sorry. I
Oh
didn't
no,
hear
I'm sorry.
that.
I'm sorry. I misinterpreted that. It's let me see my notes here. Plot armor.
Are you okay?
Oh, gotcha. Well, actually, interesting enough, right here. Remember the torture sequence?
Yeah.
If you submitted during that, Meryl would actually be dead.
Oh really?
Into the-
Yeah, and you wouldn't be rescuing Meryl. You'd be rescuing Otacon. But but that is not canon
Just like
since
you.
Meryl is alive in Metal Gear Solid 4.
Made me feel closer to
I'm not
you.
sure if that was a thing, is like it was left up in the air that Meryl was dead or just dead or alive or whatever for like 10 years before the release of Solid 4, or people just knew which the canon ending was, right then and there back in '98. I'm not sure which one. I like to think the latter because it's cooler like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like how the Resident Evil games are like, you can have multiple endings, but only one of them is canon.
Dead Rising, I think. More or
Dead
less.
Rising.
Snake.
Yeah, Dead Rising for sure.
I wanted
Resident Evil, I don't
to see you again.
know. I haven't played a lot of them.
I just know that like with Resident Evil 2, for example, the fans considered the most canon ending to be, I think it was Claire A, Leon B.
I think so. I don't really remember.
I believe that's the canon ending, is Claire A, Leon B.
Yeah, it's like the first two Resident Evil games had like a multiple campaign thing, kind of like Sonic Adventure, but not really. And then they stopped doing that for Resident Evil 3 onwards. Then they brought Sonic Adventure back, storytelling back into Resident Evil 6, and that's the worst one in the franchise.
The tunnel leads from there to the surface. The door.
So it's kind of like you know how in Sonic Adventure 1 you had to fight Chaos 4 both as all as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They essentially had boss fights like that in Resident Evil 6. Yeah. Man, I have to fight Chaos 4 with all 3 characters? Fuck, man.
If we're talking about games with, like, canon endings,
Yeah.
Shadow the Hedgehog, that shit.
Fuck that game.
What is the even point of following a path if there's a final story segment?
Yeah, there is like
what is the point?
I honestly do not know. Because on one hand, like factoring out that the game is bad.
Yeah. Factoring that out.
Yeah, factoring that out, think of it as like, who do you want Shadow to be? Because I kind of leave that up to interpretation with the events of, bringing him back in Sonic Heroes. But essentially, it's like, who do you want Shadow to be? Do you want him to be like the angsty, I do my own thing kind of hero, or like be an actual good guy, or just be a downright villain? Or a douchebag. All those kind of fall in line with one another. But nope, Shadow ends up saving the day anyway.
Well, did Shadow the Hedgehog come after? Shit, what was that one with the team up mechanic?
That was Sonic Heroes. Yeah, that was after.
That was
Heroes was 03, Shadow was 05.
Okay. Literally, Shadow the Hedgehog was just the concept of nobody in Sonic Heroes telling Shadow about the events of Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
that was the whole point of that game.
Then, like, you can probably summarize Shadow the Hedgehog of why didn't you just have a conversation?
Yeah, just
why didn't hell fucking Rouge knew everything.
Right, and she neglected
and she just never bothered to say anything.
Looks like we're not gonna have a
Yeah, Shadow, you know that you're super powerful and save the world because your friend told you to?
Let's get out of here.
Snake, it's freezing outside. You need some clothes.
Yeah, it's like that anime trope of like a lot of characters wouldn't be having these problems if they just went to therapy sessions. Because that could be really helpful, you know?
Good, Snake.
It's always those games with like... It's the games with like multiple endings, but... the like non-canon ones.
Yeah,
it's one of those games that are always odd for me.
Sometimes... if it's like a legacy franchise of anything, there kind of has to like be a definite canon ending. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. You want to leave it up to interpretations, but when you try to make a sequel to that multiple interpretation ending thing, there kind of has to be a canon ending because by proxy.
You're willing to put in the time, effort, and money to make multiple games that follow all different endings.
Yeah, and that's just not reasonably possible. It kind of worked in Mass Effect more or less, because they worked off the same hard drive. Well, assuming you got them for the same system. But that's the thing. Mass Effect 3 for the Wii U is a thing.
Why?
I don't know why.
The
Wii U stopped trying to be cool.
It did on day one.
The main issue where I have that multiple endings but only one is canon, and that's in Far Cry.
Like all of them, or
yeah, no, Far Cry 5 mostly.
Okay.
Because there are 3 endings to that game, but only one of them is canon. And I've always said the reason I don't like Far Cry 5 is because all 3 endings are fucking terrible. It literally goes from bad. It's like bad, worse, and fucking terrible.
And see
And
that
fucking terrible is the canon one.
and that one's interesting that they actually have like a canon ending to that one, because Far Cry is not a sequential series. Well, it is in terms of numbering, but it's in the same vein as Final Fantasy. Like
The
they
reason
don't.
there's one that's considered canon is because of New Dawn, which
Oh,
falls
really?
directly after.
Oh,
Okay, so that in the ending of Far Cry 5, the one that's canon, plays into New Dawn.
Oh, okay.
If New Dawn didn't exist, then any ending would have been alright. I mean, let's be fair. When I played it the first time, I still thought all the endings were stupid.
But yeah, even like just negating that, the canon part of it. Okay, I didn't know that New Dawn was the follow up to 5. Okay.
Yeah, it was because it takes place in Montana again.
Gotcha.
And well, you see the guy, the main boss from the last game in it.
Oh, really? Okay.